In the previous movie, we deleted polygons based upon a volume selection. I want to detour into an alternate method for doing this to illustrate the issues that may arise from a phenomenon known as topology dependence. If you're not careful and you don't quite understand how this works, you may run into trouble when you change the level of detail in a parametric model. Let's take a look. I've got a monitor stand here. I'll select that. And in the Modify panel, once again, I've got a box primitive with a taper and a bend. I'm going to hard select certain polygons for deletion instead of using the volume select modifier as we did in the previous movie. From the modifier list, at the top we have the selection modifiers. Let's choose poly select. And we'll want to go into face subobject mode, so choose polygon face subobject mode. And we can click on faces to select them. We can hold down Control to select multiple faces. It'll just be easier if we can select them by just dragging the mouse across the polygons. And there is a way to do that with our selection tools. I'll click off of those to deselect them. Up on the main toolbar, we have our various selection region types, and the default is rectangular. Click and hold that button to access the flyout, and switch it over to the icon which looks like an aerosol can. And that's known as Paint Selection Region. Now all you have to do is just drag your mouse across some polygons to select them. But if you orbit around with Alt and middle mouse, you'll see that we selected the faces that were pointing towards the current view and the ones that were pointed away, or the back faces. We don't want to select the back faces. So click out here to select nothing once again. And in the Poly Select parameters, enable Ignore Back Faces. And then click and drag to select some polygons. If you want to remove from the selection, you can use the Alt keyboard shortcut. So hold down the Alt key and click to deselect some of those polygons. And now we're ready to delete them once again as we did in the previous movie. So from the modifier list, once again, add a delete mesh modifier. And so far, everything looks the same as if we had used a volume select modifier. The problem comes in if we try to change the level of detail. If we go back to our box creation parameters by clicking on box in the modifier stack, we get a warning. A modifier exists in the stack that depends on topology. Changing parameters may have undesirable effects. The dependent modifier is poly select. Are you sure you want to continue? Well, when most people first see this, they really can't decode what is being said. The issue here is that the box is a parametric primitive, but poly select is an explicit selection that's not parametric. If you change the level of detail of the box, it's going to actually kind of destroy your model, or at least change it in ways you might not expect. In this warning dialog, I'm going to choose yes this time, and then see what happens if I change the number of length segments on the box. Click and drag on that, and what's happening is different areas on the model are being deleted. I can change the width segments as well and see how that affects the model, or the height segments, and I can get into a lot of trouble here. But the basic takeaway is that changing the topology, or the structure, is going to have adverse effects when we're using an explicit selection method such as polyselect. And this is happening because the polyselect is operating on ID numbers. The points or vertices on a polygon model have ID numbers which are hidden from view. When we change the structure of a polygon object, then those vertex ID numbers will shift around on the model. Polyselect is not really the best tool for the job here. So we can just learn from that experience, set these parameters back the way we had them, length segments of 100, width segments of 1, and height segments of 1 as well. And we should be restored back to exactly the same shape we had before. On rare occasions, I have seen issues with this process in the past, so if you plan to change the level of detail, or otherwise change the structure or topology, then when you see that warning, you should take it seriously and maybe save your scene before proceeding. If you need to select certain areas of the model and preserve a non-destructive parametric workflow, then use the volume select modifier instead. That's how topology dependence affects parametric modeling.